What's up, everybody? So the next sign I would like to go through in the IC is Capricorn. And if you have a Capricorn IC, that means that Capricorn rules your fourth house. And just as just a little reminder, so Capricorn represents discipline, it represents boundaries, structures, routines. It's an earth sign, and so it behaves accordingly. So having a Capricorn IC is similar to having a Virgo IC. It's a little bit more intense though. So to start with, if you have a Capricorn IC, or even if you have Saturn in the fourth house, that means that one of your parents, usually the father, because Capricorn and Saturn represent the father, was very dominant in your home. Could be the mother if the mother was more masculine and the father was not, but it's a case by case thing. But in a household like this, your dad calls all the shots. And when I say all the shots, I mean all the shots. Like every single thing is determined by him or by the parent that is the more controlling one. And that's a word that's going to come up a lot with Capricorn, is that at its worst, it can be a very highly controlling sign. And because it has very high standards. And so like you have to live up to a certain standard, you have to live up to a certain way of being when you're around not just a Capricorn IC, but like Capricorn energy in general. So if you're around a Capricorn sun, a Capricorn moon, someone with a lot of Capricorn in their chart, they're going to hold very high standards that if you don't meet them, they could just cut you out of their life. They're cold. Capricorns can be very, very cold. And it's kind of alarming, especially when the other signs are a little bit more forgiving. But if you're not meeting what Capricorn wants, you're gone. You're on the chopping block. So in a household like this, practicality is everything. Everything needs to have a practical, there's a place for everything, like there's a practical use for everything. And if there isn't, it's gone. There's no nostalgia here. There's no like, oh, I had this thing when I was 5 years old and I've had it since I was 20, or now I'm 25 and I still have it. All that stuff's gone. So like, if it doesn't serve anymore, it's out. This house is also like color-wise, just kind of drab and just very practical, mundane colors. So like grays and whites and blacks and browns, mauve, those sorts of colors would be in a Capricorn IC's home. So nothing like too flashy. It's not a Leo, type of place where there's like a bunch of different things and it's creative. There's just, it's functional, it's practical, it's useful. And so like Capricorn's all about like, how can I use something to my advantage? This is where they become very cold, if, on the extreme side. So in this household, your dad probably called all the shots. So the father calls all the shots. And you have to earn whatever recognition is being given to you. So in a home like this, Capricorn's an earth sign, it's not very emotional. Its opposite sign, Cancer, is very emotional. We'll get into that when we get to the MC of this, because that's the opposite sign of Capricorn. But in a household like this, recognition had to be earned, and you had to live up to certain expectations, certain ways of living, certain ways of being, to get any sort of recognition, any sort of like feeling that you're recognized or that you're loved in any sort of way. So love was very, very conditional. And it didn't come just like from you being a person in this household. It came from what you could provide, what you could do. And so like as a result of this, you mature very quickly. So someone with a Capricorn IC, they are ones who grew up very fast. You could be an older sibling. You could also be like a middle or younger sibling, and you had to take on responsibility and be capable of like being mature and responsible very quickly at a very young age. And so as a result of this, like it was hard for you to develop any sort of like inner child. And so like the inner child was like pushed down quite a bit. Now, if you didn't live up to the expectations in this household, then whoever was the more controlling parent, probably the dad, you would get punished. And punishment with Capricorn can be downright cruel. It, because of its controlling nature, it wants to call the shots. It wants to be the strong one. It does not want to appear weak. And so it will weaken whatever is around it to become and to look stronger. Doesn't necessarily mean like your parent was a strong person. It just means that they were controlling and they had a big ego in a sense. But one thing that Capricorn does really well is wait and is patient. So if you did get punished in some sort of way, they would want to like this parent would want to like inject so much time where you would internalize your guilt, your shame, everything that like if you made a mistake, it was the biggest deal in the world. And so as an adult, you carry that with you, that if you make a mistake, if you say something wrong, if you do something wrong, if your work is not up to par or above it, it is the end of the world to you. Like it feels like the end of the world to you. And so like when let's just say like you spilled something growing up and like your dad gave you the cold shoulder for like a couple of days because you spilled it on his favorite couch or something. Like you didn't mean to do that, but the reaction is so extreme from the person like who's controlling that like, and it's usually like a cold shoulder approach where it's just like, I'm not going to talk to you. You need to think about what you've done. You need to really like reflect on that. And so like these people have an ability to really like think and reflect on, different things that they've done, but like to the point where it's like crushing it. Like what just popped into my head is like the scene in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom where like the wall is coming down and like crushing them. That's what it can feel like. So it doesn't feel good. But the negative thing with this is that like because that's how you get someone's attention, you can do this too. So you got to be careful that as you grow older and you're around people, especially around like relationships or like people that are close to you, don't do this to them because you're repeating the same patterns of like that cold shoulder that you got when you were a kid. And this can leave you feeling like really worthless, like feeling very worthless and like, why am I not loved? Why is it hard for me to express emotion or be around people that express emotion? And so like on the opposite end of this, you have the IC in Capricorn, you have the MC in Cancer. And so like Cancer is represented by the emotions. It's a water sign. It's a very caring, nurturing sign. So when you go out into the world, like that's what you're hoping to find. Subconsciously, like you want to find a nurturing family. And then you open yourself up. So Cancer is also like a very open sign. And so like you can go into a business or an organization or your work or even school and like your friends, your co-workers, like you want that family. You want to be feeling nurtured and everything. But with this, you can be taken advantage of very easily because like you are just craving that emotional closeness and connection. And this is where a lot of like, wolves in sheep's clothing like come in and they're not trustworthy. But like you're kind of naive around that because like, everything's so controlled and structured, like growing up or even in your own home, that like you just want that emotional freedom, you want that emotional closeness. And so you might do, quite literally like anything to get it. And just be careful of that. Like it is important to have a family. It's important to start one and like, be more emotional, but it's, not at the cost of like really, looking at someone's intentions. And so like, that's one thing you can do to start to heal this in the IC is that the problem isn't like, I mean, it is a controlling nature of one of the parents, but the real problem is like, what was the intention behind that? And why, why was it done? And also like, what standards, because, there were high standards in your home, like what high standards do you want in your own home that you want to live up to and that you want other people to live up to as well? There's not a problem with having high standards or having like strong intentions. You just have to define them and make sure there's some consent, with like other people coming into your life as well. Because some people may not want to live up to those high standards. Some people may not want to live up to all of that, to get closer to them. And that's okay. And so like there's kind of a weed out, thing with Capricorn where like its standards are high, but you have to hold yourself to high standards as well. But like you don't want to get to the point of being very like really controlling with it. And so this is where Cancer comes in to be like more vulnerable of like, this is who I am, these are my intentions, this is what I want, this is my, this is my purpose. And so like the ones that really want to be around you and want to be around that energy will come in and, be able to hang basically. But like, you don't want that to go into the controlling territory. So like defining what it is, like a project that you want to do like out in the world or even at your home. So like, that's an important part of Capricorn too, is like picking like a mountain to climb because it's represented by the sea goat, and like, knowing what type of house you want to have or what type of apartment or where you want to live. And then, if you want to renovate that home or add to the home, and like focusing on like building that sort of purpose in your home life is really important. And then the right kind of people come in to help you with those projects. Because like when you get into that controlling mindset, like you'll just bring anyone in because you want to like have some sense of control, some sense of community. But then you're repeating patterns of like what your parents did or what your dad did or whoever. So for this, like you really want to examine like, okay, what were the intentions of my parents? Or what are the intentions now of what I'm trying to do? So like kind of going back into childhood and seeing like, okay, like how did I feel about this? How did they feel about this? And kind of like, reflecting on that and seeing if that aligns now with like how you feel. And if it doesn't, then you discard it, and then you adopt a new mindset of like, okay, what are the projects I want to do? What are the intentions I want? And who are the types of people I want in my life as well? And then you create this like community where like then you can nurture, then you can be emotionally vulnerable with people that like really want to be around you and they want to be like included in what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve. So there's kind of a back and forth with this one where like it's important to go back into the MC and then the IC and then go into the MC and kind of go back and forth. All the signs kind of do that as well, but this one especially, examine the intention. And then like, like really look at where you want to be disciplined in life, especially like in your home environment, so that you're channeling like those high expectations and those high standards into something that's meaningful to you and that's, a project and that's useful in your life. Hope you enjoyed this one. We have 2 left. We have Aquarius and Pisces. Aquarius being an air sign, Pisces being a water sign. I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Peace.